Okay, everyone, good evening. It's 7:05 and we will begin our meeting of the Rolling Heights Community Coordinating Council. To begin with, we're going to do the flag salute. Let me introduce myself. My name is Yvette Romo. I'm a member of the Executive Board of the Rolling Heights Community Council, and I will be moderating this evening until Denise Jacksman can join us. Ms. Bonnie Duenas, can you start us off with the flag salute?
Yes. Hand over your heart, please. Be ready, please begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Welcome.
Just a little reminder that when we ask questions or make comments, that we limit our time. These last few meetings we've been going pretty late, so we limit our time. I believe is it 2 minutes or 3 minutes? I'm not exactly sure. I will try to keep time. And remember, these are for questions on the topic that we're discussing at the time, and it's not to self-promote ourselves in any way. If we can keep that in mind as we're speaking, that would be very helpful. Let's begin with the Walnut Diamond Bar Sheriff, Claudia Maldonado. Are you ready to give your report?
Yes, ma'am, I'm ready. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Deputy Maldonado. I am the Walnut Diamond Bar Sheriff's Deputy. I will be taking over the RHCC meetings from now on. I'm just going to give you guys a brief update on the crimes we've been having in the community. We have had an increase in burglaries, business, and vehicle. What we're linking it to is the fact that now everybody's on their way, things are going back to normal, so people are starting to go back to work, so houses are now becoming, they're not as secure because people are no longer working from home. So we're having a little bit more residential burgs, a little bit more vehicle burgs. People, like I said again, they're going back to work, so properties again being left in the car, computers, cell phones, and whatnot. So there is an increase in vehicle.
This conference will now be recorded.
As far as the difference between July and August, we saw an increase in, like I said, vehicle burglaries and in residential, and a decrease in business burglaries. Now, as far as grand thefts, we saw an increase in property grand theft and a decrease in catalytic converters. So, like I said, I'm new to this. I did my homework as far as the months of July and August. We are having an event for Rolling Heights in September for catalytic converter etching. That will be posted on the Rolling Heights website for appointments. We do have other events as well, crime prevention events coming up soon. It's just a matter of us trying to get the wheels rolling since COVID, like it kind of left and now it's kind of back again. So we're just trying to be safe for everybody's sake and see what we could come up with in the next few months for crime prevention events. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Yes, ma'am.
So you're the new town sheriff. Can you share your email?
Yes. I'm not actually the town sheriff, but I will be. Well, do you guys consider the person that sits here and does the meeting with you as the town sheriff?
No, the community liaison from the sheriff's department to the council.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So let me see here. It's C as in Charlie, M A L D O N @lasd.org. So I'm partnered up with Louis Denver, as many of you know. He is the community relations deputy, so I do half my time with him and half my time with the SAO team. And now I've been included this task as well.
Are there any other questions for Deputy Maldonado?
Yes, sir.
Is that me?
Yes, sir.
Roy, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. You know, currently in the news media and so forth, the law enforcement, generally speaking, has had some change in the manner in which they do enforcement. And we currently hear this, well, we're afraid that the people haven't got our back. The DA hasn't got our back. The County Board of Supervisors hasn't got our back. What does that mean to you, haven't got our back? Is that covering for bad cops? Is that what that is?
No, sir. I mean, as far as everything that's going on up there with the DA, it doesn't deter us from doing our job and going out to calls and doing what we have to do. I mean, it changes things as far as taking people to jail, where people are now getting a slap in the hand or getting a ticket instead of going to jail, but it doesn't deter us from going and doing what we need to do, which is responding to calls in the community, making sure the community's safe, and doing the best we can as our part in providing all these things to the community.
Thank you.
No problem, sir.
Are there any other questions for Deputy Maldonado?
Or is it CM Maldonado?
You know what would be more helpful, Deputy Maldonado? If you could put your email on the chat, that way everybody can get it down at their leisure.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
And we'll continue on with our agenda. The next to speak is the California Highway Patrol, and that would be Officer Nogales.
Good evening, everybody. Roy, just to kind of touch on that real quick, we were talking about the DAs not having our backs in quote unquote, you know. We just an example, over the weekend, we were doing a impaired driving task force in our area here in Santa Fe Springs. We were out there on the 60 freeway, Hacienda Heights, Rolling Heights, and that entire area. They pulled over a gentleman who was under the influence. And they found cocaine, methamphetamine. They found a loaded ghost gun, which is a gun that's not registered. And they ended up citing and releasing him when they took him to IRC because it's no longer a bookable offense. So he actually took him, one of our AWatch, one of the units that works in the morning, took him to the inmate reception center, which is in downtown LA, and they basically said, you need to cite and release this guy. We don't book him. We'll take his picture, we'll take his fingerprints. After we do all that, here's the citation, and we hope that he shows up to court. So those are the things that we just, as officers, we, you know, as deputies, we try to do our best to enforce the law. But then when you take someone in to, you know, for processing or booking, or even prosecuting, we're being told even by the deputy district attorneys that there are a lot of things that aren't being, enhancements aren't being prosecuted. There's additional charges that will not be, you know, prosecuted, those types of things. So, you know, we're one part of that justice system, and we wish that we probably, in this area at least, we had more of that support from the other side of the justice system.
Question?
So,
Roy, let him finish his report, and then you can ask a question.
Okay.
okay, yeah. Wait, sorry, Roy. I didn't mean to cut you off. All right. So last month in July, in total, our area office, we investigated 529 traffic collisions in the area of Rolling Heights, and a little bit of Hacienda Heights. Or 31 of those were 31 of those traffic collisions were in your area. I looked up 2019. There were 695 total traffic collisions, and 24 of those were in Rolling Heights and a little bit of Hacienda Heights. So overall, the numbers are still down in total, but there are a few more collisions this year, same time as in 2019. I don't take 2020 just because you guys know it was somewhat of an off year. So we are noticing that, you know, there are more people speeding everywhere. There was a recent article, you guys might have seen it on the Associated Press. Nationwide, not only are our deaths up nationwide, and it's done by speeding, but we're getting a lot more people that are speeding over 100 miles an hour. This last month in July, we issued 72 citations for people going over 100 miles an hour. And everyone might think it's, oh yeah, well, it's probably those young kids that driving those fast cars with loud exhaust, what we might think as people speeding. But I pulled a lady over in a Tesla who was in the carpool lane, and she got frustrated with the truck in front of her. She went 106 miles an hour just to get around this pickup truck that was going 85 miles an hour. And she was just going to work. She was like, she worked in some type of medical field. So it's not just your young, your young kids that are young and dumb, as we like to say sometimes. It's all walks of life that we've encountered. In July, we had, just in the month of July, we had over 3,300 citations that we issued just in our office. 870 of those were for some type of speeding over the posted speed limit. 700 of those were for going over 65 miles an hour. 73 were for traveling at an unsafe speed. So that's about, for anybody that's going over, like unincorporated areas would be considered this, traveling for the unsafe speed, since it varies on the actual speeds. We had 800 people that we issued citations for that were solo in the carpool lane or were crossing out of the double whites or the double yellows. So that continues to be a problem, and we see a lot of traffic collisions from people trying to get out of the carpool lane or just in the carpool lane, causing more congestion. We had about almost 100 DUI arrests just in the month of July. And like I said, over the weekend, we had a impaired driving task force. Basically what that means is every area office in LA County brought maybe 3, 4, 5 of their patrol units to our area. We saturate an area office location. So in this case, this weekend on Saturday, it was Santa Fe Springs, and we were all over Santa Fe Springs. We were in Roland Heights, we were in Hacienda Heights, we were down south in Bellflower, everywhere that we covered. And just that alone on Saturday, we arrested over 40, just in one day, over 40 DUI drivers. And that's just our task force. The actual graveyard units, or the people that work at night, they arrested, I think there was maybe seven units working, and they arrested 15. So in one night in this area, we arrested over 55 drunk drivers. And that's obviously not all of them, because we know there were plenty that were still out there. We just, unfortunately, we couldn't catch them. So it just leads you to, we're continuing to see people going out, staying out longer, getting more drunk than they might have been getting, than they were in the past, and then thinking that they can drive home. The lady I arrested 2 people that night, Saturday night. The one lady had no idea where she was. She was trying to call her sister to get directions to drive to her house. And so she was just driving on surface streets, and she was blocking a driveway. So, I mean, it just shows you these people, they really don't care about public safety. And I think, last time we spoke about the homeless person on Nogales. So shortly right after that, the Caltrans and the Highway Patrol went out there, and we tried to provide services to that homeless person, and that person declined. So basically, he was given an order to vacate, and they cleaned up that area. They'll go back. The officers have been periodically going back to make sure that person doesn't come back. If they do come back, then they're basically trespassing. They can't be on the freeway, and then they'll kick them off the freeway. So if anyone has any questions, let me know. I'm available.
Okay, we'll take a few questions for Officer Iniguez. Anybody have any? Okay, Joe?
No, I just want to praise Officer Iniguez and the rest of the sheriffs and officers doing a job that they're the ones that are in trouble if they do their job, because there is no consequences for the crimes that should be have consequences for, but they're still on the front line, and I know firsthand that they're being reprimanded for just doing their job in the gentlest way they possibly can. But I just praise you guys and hope that you just keep following your heart and do what you know is right to do. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Joe.
Ray, did you have a question?
Yes. Any update on getting more coverage in Rowland Heights? Actually getting 2 cars in our area more permanently?
I don't know. We remember we talked about this, Terry. We have to look at numbers and see where, seeing in general where our mass, where we're getting most of our calls for service. I spoke with Lauren Yokomizo. She was, I don't know if you got in touch with her after we spoke, but she asked for some information as well, and I gave her basically a breakdown on some of the where the calls are coming from. So we can look at it again. But again, remember we spoke, or at least I emailed you and I told you where the reason why we have 3 units in the area that we call over the hill, which is Hacienda Heights, Rowland Heights, and the 60 freeway. Minimum 3 and sometimes up to 6. So it just depends on how many officers are working that day. Permanently, that's something you'd have to speak to the county, and then the county would have to get in touch with the CHP and see how, if that's even possible.
Okay, Roy, did you have a question?
No, it's just this rumor about us becoming a city, and then we'll get all the cars we want. Thank you.
Okay.
Roy, that's always, you're always, I'm going to tell you firsthand, you will not have the unlimited number of cars that you want. It's always going to be based on the budget, and it's going to be based on, how many resources you can get. And currently, the CHP is short-staffed by 1,300 officers statewide, and that's exactly how I could probably, if you ask Deputy Maldonado, how many deputies they're short in LA County, there's going to be a considerable number that there is, and that's for many reasons. I mean, we're starting to get into the baby boomer generation that are retiring, so we're going to have more people retiring than we are graduating from our academies. And maybe some that are going to other agencies or even leaving the state to go to another, to work for another agency in another state. So those are things that we're always playing out, that are always in the mix.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, then we'll move on. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We have the representative for Young Kim's office. I believe the field deputy is here, Abigail.
Yes, good evening and thank you. Hi. Just wanted to give a few quick updates from our office. So Congresswoman Kim recently led her California Republican colleagues in a letter to the California State Board of Education regarding a proposed mathematics framework currently being reviewed by the board. This framework would require students to study math at the same level until their high school sophomore year, and would phase out the option to take advanced math classes. And the Congresswoman opposes this given how this will hurt our global competitiveness and keep students from reaching their full potential. Last month, she joined Representative Dean Phillips to introduce a bipartisan and bicameral resolution supporting the designation of August 1st as Gold Star Children's Day to recognize the sacrifices of children of fallen service members. And we're very happy that this resolution passed in the Senate. Congresswoman Kim also introduced with Representative Kathy Manning a resolution pledging strong support of Afghan women and girls following the Biden administration's decision to withdraw from Afghanistan by September. And this passed in the House Foreign Affairs Committee and is headed to the House floor. She does have another bill that is headed to the House floor, her SB Cyber Awareness Act, which was introduced with the Small Business Committee Chairman Jason Crow. The Congresswoman, with her colleagues from the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, introduced the Partnerships for Energy Security and Innovation Act, which would require the Secretary of Energy to establish a nonprofit, the Foundation for Energy Security and Innovation, where researchers, institutions of higher education, private industry, and other nonprofits can collaborate and address energy and environmental issues, challenges at the Department of Energy. And she was also named co-chair of the Congressional App Challenge, and we're really happy about that since STEM education is a top priority for her. We also have a job fair coming up on Thursday, August 26th at the Embassy Suites in Brea. And if anyone is interested, I'd be happy to provide more information. So I will go ahead and include my contact information in the chat. But those are all my updates, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Yes, Teri.
Can you post on the chat your email?
Yes, I will go ahead and do that right now.
Are there any other questions? Go ahead, Roy.
Just a quick one. I can assume that the Congresswoman is vehemently opposed to this Wok Math situation that is put on the back burner most recently and publicized in the San Gabriel Valley Tribune. Thank you.
I don't think there was a question there. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. We'll move on our agenda. From the office of Senator Josh Newman, Field Deputy Erica Lucia. Is she here? I don't see anybody coming on, so maybe we'll swing back around. From the office of Assemblymember Phillip Chen, Gasol.
Hi everyone, it's great to be on the call with all of you guys tonight. I just have a really short update that our office is continuously working with EDD to get payments to all of our constituents. Our numbers have been decreasing luckily, but I do feel that we will have a rise pretty soon. And again, if you guys need any assistance or know anybody within our jurisdiction that needs help with getting payments from EDD, please refer them over to me. I will include my email in the chat. Thank you so much. I will include my email in the chat. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. We'll move on to
I got a quick question.
Supervisor Dennis Hahn's office, Field Deputy Lauren Yokuzu.
Quick question here.
Oh, wait a minute. Roy has a question.
For Phillip Chen.
Is that for Gasol?
Yes. And just quickly, because I've called their office most recently, and I would like, does she know of any disposition on the measures to get on the books the decertification of police in the state of California, and also to modify the California Penal Code to allow counties to remove the jails from the jurisdiction of the sheriff's department. And I'll just forego the question, did anybody find that $34 billion that the state has flushed down the toilet from the EDD, I believe that is. So on those first two, decertification and jails, has any action been taken on those?
Sir, so I'm not aware of that, but I can get back to you on it as soon as I get more information.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Okay, back to Janice Hahn's office. Lauren, are you ready to go?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I have two brief announcements. First of all, I would like to talk a little bit about a motion that Supervisor Hahn will be introducing at the board meeting tomorrow. She is going to be asking the county to implement a fine-free library for overdue library books and materials. So overdue fines make up less than 1% of the county's library revenue, and in other jurisdictions, other library systems, those who have fine-free policies have actually seen a growth in library card registrations and a 200% increase in return materials. So this would be a way for us to just encourage people, our library patrons, and not deter them from coming to the library because they have fines. So that's one thing that will be considered tomorrow. And just a reminder, we do have concerts in the park sponsored by Supervisor Hahn starting this week. So the first concert is Thursday. It starts at 7 p.m. and we want to invite you to come out and enjoy. The second to the last concert will be August 28th. And on the 28th, we will have resource booths supporting the Asian American Pacific Islander community, the API community. And we continue to want to support our communities and take a stand against hate. We have had a recent incident in the area involving some graffiti and some racist language. So this is just something that we want to, again, show our support and solidarity. So those are all the announcements that I have. If anyone has any questions, happy to take any questions.
Go ahead, Roy.
Lauren, is it still true that the County Board of Supervisors is going to, it's okay to tear down men's twin tower jails in downtown Los Angeles without any replacement? And doesn't that have obvious consequences? Does a leopard change its spots? Thank you.
Yes. So as far as a replacement facility, I'm not sure. I can get back to you on that, Roy. I'll email you with that information. I just want to make sure that I have correct information for you.
Yeah, if you would put that out so that everybody gets it. I'm just a cog in the wheel, or a grain of sand on the beach of humanity. Thank you.
Got it.
Yes, Teri.
Lauren, is there a county regulation on how far apart liquor licenses are awarded? We drove by a 7-Eleven, which is right next door to Roland Liquor Store on Fullerton Road, and we noticed that there's an application to sell wine and beer. They're literally right next door to each other.
So, Teri, is your question, is there anything that would prevent two establishments from holding a liquor license that are right next to each other?
Yes.
Okay. I will check and get back to you to see if there's anything that would prohibit that. I'll let you know.
Lauren.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be obvious that those who are doing this hearing and granting the license, so forth, that they already know what the regulations are, and they would be loath to violate same? Isn't that just an obvious conclusion? And I'm all for competition.
I'm sorry, Roy. I didn't hear the latter part of what you were stating.
Oh, I'm all for competition, but these people, just like with the golf course thing, the people conformed with the present and existing laws, and so do these people that put out the hearings for the liquor license and so forth. Thank you.
Yes, and it is subject to review by the county if there's a public hearing on it, and so of course I hear what you're saying. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Lauren? I think I see somebody's hand raised. Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go, Ray.
Quick question for Lauren. Is there any change, or what is the proposed Airbnb regulations actually going to be debated and happen? Because right now it's basically unregulated in Golden Heights, which I have emailed your office, and nothing seems to be happening. I was curious about the status of that.
Yeah, thanks for that question. It has been quite a long time, and we've been meeting with the staff to get updates. They're working with multiple departments in the county to try and put together an ordinance, and have had to create a new policy. So that's why it's taking so long. I don't have any date for when this will come to us, a draft ordinance that would go before the board. But when I do, I will be more than happy to share that with them.
The draft ordinance on the website looks great.
I'm sorry?
The draft ordinance, which is on the county tax website, looks great.
Oh, okay.
There is a draft. It just doesn't seem to be happening, and for whatever reason, the tax authority is not using the authority they have to do anything where they theoretically could charge bed tax, which they're not. So basically, the Airbnbs are operating free where hotels are not. So hotels are being forced to do the tax, and Airbnbs are not being regulated at all.
Sure. So we don't have, as to my knowledge, we don't have, that's what we've been waiting for is a an ordinance that would regulate Airbnb, as well as give us an opportunity to, say, collect tax from these establishments that currently don't pay remit tax. So we also want to be able to establish some specific guidelines. So this is what I'm referring to. I'll be more than happy to check what it is that you're referring to on TV's website. Maybe you can send me the link and what you're talking about, just so I understand, and we can get information to you. That's
right. It just seems to be waiting for whatever's happening, because I haven't emailed you and got a response back. And just what I understand was going to be debated eventually, which questions when.
Yes, right. So when once we do know, I will let you know. I'm sorry, we don't have a date right for when it'll be ready. Okay.
Okay.
Just a quickie here. Can we applaud Ray for a great job? Great job, Ray.
Roy,
Oh.
please wait to be identified.
I'm sorry.
I see that Maria Cano is there. Perhaps she can give an update on two of my concerns. One, she can give an update to the group on the project on Fullerton Road, and second, let people know about possibly sinking the lights on Fullerton that are northbound.
Is there someone there to address these two questions from Teri?
I see Maria Cano, who's in charge, who's the ACE project manager.
She's coming on. Hold on, Teri.
Hi.
She's coming on.
Hi, Teri. Can you, sorry, I was actually responding to another email. Can you tell me again your question?
Update the community on the progress and the new contract and the work, and then
Sure.
also anything you have on any updates on syncing the northbound lights between Freeway and Gale northbound on Fullerton.
Okay, on the first part, yes, the contract has been awarded with mobilization. You'll probably start seeing that in the next few weeks, but that's what is called a limited notice to proceed that allows the contractor to start setting up on site, and that will be within the next several weeks. And then with actual start of construction, September of this year, the focus, first priority will be Gale Fullerton. And that might, and Teri, that sort of goes to that second part. It may or may not change a little bit depending on how they're going to proceed with the work on Gale. As they begin that mobilization, that may impact the signaling somewhat. But as you know, the traffic engineer was out previously to look at the current conditions, seeing as the last sort of syncing that was done to the timing of those signals at actual Gale Fullerton was back in February. So what they were looking at was to make sure that the conditions meet the requirements for what is there now, and that the timing of the signals, and there is sometimes that they do need some adjustment, and that is done, but adjustments are very minor. It's like seconds. It's not full changes like the ones that have been suggested, but we are going to be looking at them moving forward as, like I said, since that phase will continue, that might require some of that change. And once a contractor comes on board and shares their whether their traffic pattern is going to need to change for the work that they're going to complete. That will determine what those changes will be. So we'll be on that for the next month or so. And if anything like that is going to change drastically, that will be noticed, much like the new award of that contract was noticed. I think I also shared, and you did share your opinion on that. Yes, the blocking intersections is legal, but it is not being necessarily enforced, and it's not because we don't have the support that we need. It's because when we call out support from the sheriff's office, what happens is they get out there and they do some patrolling, but they get called to other locations, and we completely understand. They can't sit there and cite every person that violates what is basic driving knowledge. You're not supposed to block an intersection. We are, just to make that clear in that area a little bit more, we'll be striping that area as a keep clear indicator that will be going out there at the off-ramp and Fullerton. So that might address some of, we know that's not going to address the whole problem, but it's hopefully going to address some of what is happening now. Additionally, we will be asking for support from the county sheriffs to go out there, and once that's in place, to reinforce the message. So we'll see what happens with that. But again, our commitment is to continue to maintain that vigilance over the timing. There was actually several instances throughout the life of this project that we've had county come out and adjust them, because there are such things, they are machines and they have to be maintained, and it was more of a maintenance issue that did affect the timing of those signals. So that's what we stay on top in terms of making sure that the turns and the cycles are happening when they're supposed to. But knowing that, one, we're going back into construction, and two, depending on what COVID, how COVID changes the patterns out there because of more traffic, that's also kept in mind, and we are going to be looking at that closely. And I say construction because when you have moving vehicles in those areas, that necessitates a very strict, safe traffic plan that's going to protect not only the vehicles and drivers, but our construction crew as well.
Okay, thank you. Roy, did you have a question?
Yeah,
for
Miss Cano, for Miss
our
Cano.
current speaker?
Yes, Miss Cano. Miss Cano, could you have somebody go over and take a look at that Fairway underpass at the 60? You talk about stripe. That thing is a striping nightmare. With the like 4 lanes wide and only 2 of them. You just go over there and look at it. And even on the 60, what they've done is they put the big 57 or 60 or so forth. Again, it's a nightmare over there and a hazard. So I hope you can do something about that. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any? I see a question from Mr. Harvey. Go ahead.
Yes. Is this where I would bring up a question about maintenance on Aguiro Street at Fullerton? Sort of an intra-community, throughway for a lot of traffic going to the school over here at Blandford, in and out to get people, I guess, get the kids dropped off, of course. Blandford is 1 feet off to the south, and then I guess coming up Aguiro, a lot of traffic. The street is in need of repair. That's basically what I would bring up as a point. Is where that's to be addressed.
Ms. Cano, do you take care of that, or is that?
I don't think that's near the project.
No.
No, because, our limits of the project, just so you know.
Need it, but just asking the question, is this the proper forum for which bringing that up, and are you the person to whom I would bring it?
Well, again, the limits of our construction project is actually north of, just next to the gas station and Diamond Plaza. And that's south, on the south end. And on the north end is Roland, San Jose. And on the east and west on Railroad Street It's actually just before Samuelson and midway before Charlie on Railroad. So if it's anywhere outside of that, and Gale is Plaza and Angelic. So if it's outside of those limits, it is not our, that is not within the project, but it's a good question because if it is within those project limits, yes, we are responsible to be part of the maintenance or conversation of bringing in the necessary parties to address the issues.
I was trying to see if James Yang was here because Mr. Harvey, that would be more of a question for him. If you could give me your information on the chat. Yeah, if you give me your information on the chat, I'll give you his information that you can contact him directly on that issue.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to ask Maria, what's the estimated completion date of the project?
The full completion date of the project is August 2024.
Okay, for both Fairway and Fullerton Row, or?
No, that's just Fullerton. Fairway is I want December 2022 next year for Fairway.
Oh, Fairway is next year. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did we have any other questions on this topic?
Yes, please. I am new. I don't know what agency Maria Cano represents. Can I have that and her email, please?
Her email? Is that what you wanted?
I'd also like to know which agency she represents. I'm not familiar. It wasn't on the agenda.
No, it was just a question that one of our community members asked regarding the construction on Fullerton, and that is what Ms. Kondo works with.
Okay, thank you. I don't know what group she represents.
I can share my email also on the chat, and I am from the Alameda Corridor East Project, which is the construction arm of the San Gabriel Council of Governments.
Thank you.
And
Joe, did you have a question?
I do.
Go ahead, Joe.
Did I understand right that it's going to be another 3 years before Fullerton gets done? And what happened to the years past? I mean, what's going on? 3 years, they can build a Golden Gate Bridge. You know, why 3 years on a project that should be done? If workers are there, it'll be done mid next year. Another 3 years, and how long has this been going on? To me, that's totally unacceptable. This bizarre. This bizarre. You know, and just to spill it out. Oh yeah, you know, August 2024. Like, oh, that's no big deal. Another 3 years with that congestion there. That is just insane. You know, you might as well, you know, join in with the people walking in the stores and walking out without paying and not having any consequences as well. There's got to be some consequences to those contracts and those people that are responsible to get that job done. 3 more years, they can start all over again at a different location and get it done from scratch quicker than that. What's going on? You know.
Okay, I'm not sure if you are aware of this, of what happened. The person, maybe Ms. Kondo could explain it. We had to go to rebid on the contract because the original contract
got mismanaged, and the money probably got spent and thrown away. So now we're waiting for what? For this new infrastructure bill to come across for trillions of dollars that they can tap into that. And this, what makes us think in 3 years this contractor's going to get this done? You know, you know what? Who's supervising this? This is ridiculous. I'm a contractor, man. I'd be out of business within a week. I mean, that's unheard of. You give a guy 3 years to start a project, to complete a project, and with having to get new monies. Wait a minute. If those monies are there and we're there, and this guy absconded, you know, again, is this another one of the things that you can, you know, the crime, it doesn't matter if you commit crimes because there's no consequences, you know, and it's just fine. Hey, I want to sign up for that. No, actually, I don't.
Okay.
I have a little more.
Thank you for the comment.
If I may say, Gale Fullerton is actually going to be prioritized so that we're looking to complete that intersection and opening it by summer 2022, so next year. So that's what you'll see out initially, which is why I was addressing Teri's question on that signaling and why that's sort of a fluid situation right now. But that is going to be the first priority. That does not mean that the rest of the project will be on hold. You'll have the contractor focusing on a big part. This is a 2-bridge project. Railroad itself will be a bridge, Fullerton will be a bridge. So they'll be focused on those parts of the project as well. North Fullerton is paved, but it's not open to the public because the rest of the underpass is still not completed. We have the improvements of the widening of the street, what you'll see the rest of the street actually look like on North Fullerton, because that part was completed. And so there'll be a team that's working on Gale. It's also a team that's working on the tracks, and also a team that's focused on the railroad end. But it's one contractor that sort of will be moving their workers to be focused on these different areas. However, prioritizing Gale and Fullerton.
Okay, thank you. We need to kind of move on. Terry, do you have one more question on this issue?
If the contractor would just go to Home Depot and hire those guys right there, they would get it done in half the time. You know, the workers are right there. They get it done because they want to work.
Thank you, Joe. We need to move on, Joe. Thank you.
Okay.
Real
This
quick,
can go on for years.
were made in order to get an acceptable lower bid that the contract was awarded to?
I didn't hear that question. I'm not sure Ms. Kondo heard the question.
The original, when it was put out for rebid, they were all too high, so they redesigned it and put it out for bidding again. And I just want to know what the changes were made overall in the design that resulted in the lower bid.
You won't see the redesign affecting the elevations of the project per se, because there isn't a redesign of the project. It's sort of a when you're looking at, it's a very complicated bidding process where you look at what materials will cost, what is required by law on these projects and has to be paid for. And what the project manager did was look at every aspect of the remaining part of the project and look to see what did not need to be rebid because it was already either partially completed, already completed, and look at all those facets of the overall remaining part of the remaining project to see, but one basic example is materials. There may be a type of material that's required by the Union Pacific for purpose of use within their limits, and that may have changed. So once that changes, if the contractor can go for a different approach, that may cost less. So things like that was what they looked at the contract overall for. It wasn't to change nothing. We're still getting 2 bridges. We're still getting an underpass. We're still getting improvements along Gale and Railroad and Fullerton. None of that has changed. The improvements that were committed to the community are going to be there.
Just very quickly.
Thank you.
Just very quickly, we aren't compromising quality, are we, Ms. Cano?
Not at all, not at all. This is being overseen by not only their analysts at the contractor's end, but the engineers and the designers in our end. It has to be, constructability is a priority. Obviously, the quality is really translated into the regulations that govern these types of constructions, both public and design, as well as duration and such. This is all that does not get compromised just because you're looking at a cheaper. A cheaper just means you're looking at a contractor who's got the connections and the wherewithal to make a contract happen without that added layer of additional, bigger tax tickets. And that's how we look at it.
Okay, we're gonna take one more question from David on this issue before we move on. Go ahead, David.
Thank you. The material cost has gone up so much in the last few years. I'm not sure I did not see the contract, but everybody knows that the material cost has gone up in the last 3-4 years, and right now this project is paid by taxpayers. Okay, and if this project keeps dragging on, I think you're wasting taxpayers' money. That's the bottom line.
Yes, thank you. Let's move on the agenda, because we still have our guest speaker to get to. And let's move on to our school board. Teri Chen, are you ready to go?
Good evening. Okay, yeah, I'm ready. Yes, good evening and school district. Today was a great day, first day of the school since March 16 closing of the campus in person. We're excited to welcome back TK to 12 students on campus for in-person instruction for 2021-2022 school year. The students and staff were excited and eager to see one another, to be on campus. With the excitement, we were naturally some nervous, as we were all a bit rusty. But all in all, the day was great. At the start of the day, many schools had a red carpet welcome, and the parents and the students were joyful. Students were great about keeping their masks on, and were eager to learn and follow the process of doors for entrance, door for exit, hand sanitizer, hand washing, bottle filling stations, and more. The district is proud of many health and safety measures implemented for our staff and the students at our schools, including thermal cameras to screen temperatures at the entrance area, plastic glass dividers on desks, and the signage for traffic flow, upgraded classroom ventilation, hand sanitizer stations in all classrooms, and the touchless water bottle filling stations. Channel 2 and Channel 9 were out front at Killian at the dismissal to capture the feel-good story about the first day of school. They had been in Palmdale earlier today, and while we are not sure, we will assume this will be aired later tonight or tomorrow. Thanks to recent legislation, all students in our USD will receive free breakfast and lunches. Thank you. That's all. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Teri Chen? I don't see anybody. Okay, well, I'm not sure if Judy is here from Mount Sac. I didn't see her come in. And I don't see her turning on her microphone. Okay, great. Thank you. We'll move on to our presentation of from the Los Angeles County Fire Department, Captain Masegawa. I hope I said that right.
Oh, it's all fine. I've heard it butchered so many times, don't worry about it. I don't take it personal.
I apologize.
No worries, no worries.
I didn't even attempt your first name.
Oh, don't worry, I just go with the nickname, so I don't even attempt it either. So, good evening, everyone. I hope all of you guys are doing well. I've heard all the comments with the community and everything, and I apologize. I live in the HOA too, so I'm familiar with these board meetings, and my heart goes out to what you guys are doing. So, hopefully, we can kind of steer it to a different platform. I'm here tonight to answer any comments or concerns you may have about wildland fires, and then I'm gonna go over the Ready, Set, Go presentation. I'm not trying to kill you guys with death by PowerPoint, but I will go over it just to give you guys an idea, and then I'll be here to ask any questions. Ms. Romo, I'm not familiar with Go Meeting. Is there a way to share screen or? Okay, all right. I think that's what I'll be sharing.
Okay, I think you're good to go. I think I made you a presenter.
Okay, can you guys see that, the PowerPoint? Or?
Yes.
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 All right, so I'll move this over there. All right. Okay. Oops, sorry. Don't worry, it's only 27 slides. I'll make this go by fairly quickly, but we'll touch on some of the biggest things. All right. So, some of you guys have probably heard of the thing we have. It's Ready, Set, Go. It's a 3-stage program that we try to get all the communities, those who live in brush areas, to get their minds or idea, thought process on what happens in a brush fire. Now, there was a point in time that brush fires lasted typically from October and went into April. But as you guys can probably agree, we've been in a drought for probably well over 5 years, for sure. So we've created a thing where now brush fires are now year-round. So the adage of what it used to be has now become, we have people out there that are experiencing homelessness. So some of these brush fires are committed by sometimes just unnatural activities such as that. We have winds, prevailing winds that knock down power lines. Sometimes those started. And then we have other issues that go on. Now, typically the 4 things that help a brush fire, or what would you say, are fuel, temperature, heat, and topography. Now, of those 4, there's only one that you and I have influence on, and that would be the fuel. We have no control in the topography being the hills, the lay of the land. We have no control of that. We have no control of the heat, and I'm sure you guys can all attest, it seems that we've been having a heat wave for over a couple of months now. And then we have no control of the winds. Now, some of you guys may have heard of what's called Santa Anas. Santa Anas are more particular to our area because Santa Anas come and they usually start around the fall, and you'll see they'll start at the northeast and then they'll blow. And typically wherever the wind origin starts, it blows the opposite. So it starts in the northeast and it blows down southwest. So that's why you always hear those campaign fires, those Malibu fires, those fires in Ventura, so on and so forth, because that's where the wind is pushing. But as I mentioned earlier, we have control over the fuel. Now, the fuel would be fuel mod or fuel modification, and that's going to be how we thin up the vegetation around our houses. So that was just to give you guys a little backstory on this. So now moving forward, we're going to the Ready, Set, Go program. Now, we see that throughout the time, as I mentioned earlier, wildfires are starting to be more prevalent. Matter of fact, we have one up north in Northern California, the Dixie Fire. That's on, as it stands right now, probably the 2nd or 3rd largest fire we have in California history. And it's still going to grow, and we're going to be exchanging crews out there. So it's getting further and further. Now, we're trying to do things such as this, like educate the community, because in reality, as brush fires continue on, we start to thin ourselves out as first responders. Keep in mind, brush fires isn't our only responsibility. We still have structure fires that we go on, and we still have your day-to-day medical emergencies. So after a course in time, we have a tendency we start to thin ourselves out. Now, as I believe Deputy Ingias earlier mentioned, we too are focusing on a generational change where we had a lot of our baby boomers retiring, and we're in that catch-up phase where we're trying to keep up with the retirements, and we're trying to put through classes, but it seems like everybody's short-staffed. But obviously that's not something you guys want to hear about. So, but I'm telling you guys just some of the things that you guys may not be aware of on the back end. Now, as LA County Fire Department, when it comes to brush fires, our priority is always going to be life. Our second priority is going to be incident stabilization. Then our third priority is going to be property conservation. Now, this is where you as homeowners, this is where you guys are more concerned because everyone cares about their house, myself included. But we have what's called triaging, and they will determine based off where the fire is going, what is considered, won't say salvageable, what is they're able what are they able to assess, and then there's things that we're not going to be able to risk. So I'll show you guys a picture in a second. So if you want to find out more of this, feel free to check out our website. It's fire.lacounty.gov, and they'll have this presentation and other pamphlets for you guys. Okay, so we talked about this. So educating you guys on having a realistic action plan. Now, as you guys can see in the background, that's some sort of massive fire. Now, if you can imagine when you guys were kids, imagine putting your hand over a stove. Now, for most of us, I'm sure all of us in this audience, we only have so much tolerance how much we can put our hand over a stove. Now, if you factor that and you magnify it to the picture we see in the background, can you guys still see the picture? I'm sorry. Hello?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, I'm sorry. So if you can look at the picture in the background, that's going to be the reality. There's only so much that we can be able to do. A lot of it is going to be based off what the wind does and pushes the fire. And then it's going to be what our helicopters are able to manage. And then it's going to be what our dozer are able to come in. And then we'll come in on the fire engines behind, and we'll try to maneuver through some of the neighborhoods and get access. Some neighborhoods are better than others. Some areas are big on, they like their sceneries, and they don't really believe in brush clearance, and that can be a challenge in itself. A lot of people too, keep in mind, a lot of these roads get shut. And so we as the fire department are trying to navigate through the roads while we have a lot of people trying to exit the road. So that can be a challenge in itself. So the first thing we do is ready. So how do we do that? Well, we create a defensible space. And as mentioned earlier, we do it by fuel modification. So we're going to show you some pictures on how you guys can take some of the stuff out from around your house, but we still want to leave that pristine look about you guys' house. Okay? Set would be having a checklist that you and your family know in and out. Whether you guys have kids, whether you guys have older family members, younger families, whatever it may be, you want to have that checklist. The last thing you want is when a brush fire comes, do I have my medicine? Do I have my cell phone charger? Do I have enough food to leave? And so on and so forth. Do I have my pictures, my valuables? What do I do? These are a lot of things that people don't have preset. So you want to have that kind of preloaded in your family's mindset on what they want to do. Then go. So the best chances for anyone surviving is going to be leaving when you guys get an opportunity. Now this one is a touchy subject because some people, they have their life, their houses, that's their life work accomplishment. And I understand that. The hard part is, and the reality is, a lot of times we see fatalities because people didn't know when to leave. So that's going to be one of those things that we encourage everybody. The moment you see that, you guys go. I'm not familiar with you guys' I'm familiar with Rolling Heights, but I'm not sure which exactly where you guys live in your community, so I don't know the streets and the thoroughfares. But keep in mind, if you have a brush fire, how many of you guys are going to be able to maneuver through those roads, and then how many people are going to be able to go? It gets cluttered and congested, I'm sorry about that, quickly. So those are things we have to keep in mind. Now, this is an example of just a backing fire that's just slowly creeping down. This actually is better than it going up. Backing down is a little bit easier, and sometimes we have a better chance of protecting those quickly, because if you think about it, the way gravity goes, everything goes up quickly when it goes uphill, versus when it goes downhill, it's a little slower. And this is something that we are able to get a jump on if our resources allow us to. Okay, so we identify our houses into 3 zones. There's a zone A, B, and C. So we don't want you guys to take away the beauty of you guys' houses, but what we're telling you guys is we want you to thin up some of the things. Okay, keep some of your stuff spaced out, perhaps 10 feet away from your structures. The reason why these are important is because trees have what's called ladder fuels. So if you can imagine a tree, once that fire hits the bottom, it's going to go up. And if you have all these limbers and branches hanging out, those are considered ladder fuels. And that ladder fuel is what connects to you guys' attics and your houses. And that's eventually how that stuff connects the dots and it's able to get to your house. So we recommend you guys to thin up and try to keep stuff 10 feet apart if possible, a good spatial distance. And that's from 30 feet from the house on out. Now, if you have an additional 70 feet, then we want you guys to go a little bit better. We want you to thin, try not to have a continuous growth, but just thin it out a little bit better. And so now now we're at 100 feet, right? We have our 30 from our house, our structure on out, that's our 30, and then we have an additional 70. And then we go into our zone C, which is another 100 feet. That's where we would ask you guys to thin it out. We don't want you to nuke everything necessarily, but if you guys can put it into very thin, sparse stuff, that'll give you that, in theory, that break, so to speak, so it doesn't get close. We're trying to stop it out as far as possible, and then we start to get a little unlikely quicker to, as it gets to your house, so to speak. So every house, we're asking everyone to, in theory, have 200 feet of clearance. Okay, so vents and eaves. Anywhere where air can travel, that's going to be where your embers are going to travel. Okay, so if you look, there's this little branch right here that I mentioned earlier, the ladder fuels. That is how the fire is going to go up. It's going to go up and it'll connect it. So whatever's close to you guys' roof, unfortunately, that's where that fire is going to connect, and that's how it'll connect the dot to you guys' roof. So our biggest concerns are your vents and eaves. If there's a brush fire, we ask you guys to cover those up. Now, some of these areas, some houses are built on top of pillars and so on and so forth. These are things you have to be mindful of. This picture is a good example of being a bad example. You see all the stuff that's kind of brushed up against the wood decking and so on and so forth. You want to thin those out. Thin those branches back from the house in the top left-hand corner. If you can push that back 10 feet, as we mentioned earlier, so you don't have that ladder fuel, and then even the grass at the bottom. We don't want the water or the fire pumping around at the bottom. because all it needs is a shift of wind, and then it'll get underneath there. You or ourselves will go on and go up to the next house, and before you know it, it'll just be pumping around at the bottom, and then before you, it'll go. And as anything, resources will be gone, and then that's when we'll have a house fire. So if you guys can start off by doing that, start thinning. Walls, okay? So in a lot of these areas, sometimes brick is good, stucco, you see that adobe type tile, or that's exterior finishing. Those are all nice because that's stuff that the fire can't really penetrate through. When you start getting that wood siding, that shake shingle, all that other stuff, that's when you have a chance of that stuff just catching on. And I don't expect you guys to tear your houses down if you don't have this and rebuild it. Understand these are some of the things that can help you out. Okay, as we mentioned around combustible sidings, those are things that are easy to be ignited. However, the stucco, the material, and block or brick, rather, those are good siding options. Now, when it comes to windows and doors, as I mentioned, I don't expect you guys to remember this PowerPoint by memory, but what I would say is if you take anything from here, a handful of things is wherever the air goes, that's where the fire is going to go. Fire actually needs oxygen to continue to go. So wherever you can see a wind or a breeze or something coming through, that's 9 times out of 10 where that fire is going to poke its head through. So if you have gaps or try to seal it off in your windows and your doors, because that's where it's going to go. Assess your windows, and if you feel that you need to reseal it or recaulk it, do so accordingly. Dual panes versus single panes or recess, make sure you check those things out thoroughly. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get into the set portion, the second stage of this three-part method. Have a fire extinguisher if possible. You can go to Home Depot, Ace Hardware, a lot of these places, they're good. Keep in mind those things do have an expiration date, and all it is just a dry chemical inside. Those things can be, over a course of time when you don't use it, they will become old. And so periodically shake them up because they will get stagnant and they'll get stuck there. If you have your loved ones, make sure everybody knows where your utilities are inside your house, so that if you're gone for whatever reason, whether you're at the grocery store, the gym, the house, or at work, someone can shut those utilities off. All right. Know an escape route, and don't go the same route where you know everybody else is going to go. Try to have different routes, just because you know the main thoroughfares are always most likely going to be the clogged ones. Find a designated location where you guys want to meet up as a family, because what's going to happen is when a brush fire comes, typically the communications lines goes down, and more often than not, your battery is not charged on your cell phone, and the last thing you want to be doing is spinning, trying to worry about where your family members are. If you do, this is the part where we're doing the planning part, having a designated area where you guys can do that. And the last, at the bottom of this, is have an emergency supply kit. I can't stress this enough. Have a supply kit that can last you typically on average 3 days, 2 to 3 days. So if you can, have a friend that can be your local line. So usually people out of state are good because there's a good chance they won't be affected by the same emergency. Have that contact list, keep an emergency supply kit in your car. If you don't have a portable scanner, I don't expect you guys to geek out, but they do have apps out there, such as My Alerts, My Alert LA, Nixel, and everything like that. That's something you guys can hear. Or you can just listen to the radio. There's many forms of hearing updates. All right, told you about this. Now, I know we live in Southern California, so shorts and flip-flops seem to be a popular wear, but if you guys are going to do this, when you're making your emergency kits, try to have some sort of comfortable boots or work boots that you plan on walking around. and being away for a distance of time. We recommend you guys having clothing and natural fibers, such as cotton, because typically with brush fires, it's associated with winds, so it can get cold at night. And then also too, if it is hot, you don't want to be getting burnt up by having short sleeves and stuff. Once again, you can see this again in the survival kit or the emergency kit. We're highly emphasizing that. We talked about staying in tune with your TV, and then just have plenty of water. Yeah. We ask you guys to keep your doors unlocked because the thing is, if something happens, we typically, depending on what the fire's doing, we try to go in and at least check inside and see what's in there. If someone's in there. If someone's confined to a bed, say they're bedridden, that gives us an opportunity to see if we have to effect a rescue. When the doors are locked, sometimes it's assumed everybody's already out, or then the last thing is we don't want to go kicking in someone's door to search for that. So we ask you guys to keep your doors unlocked, but I also understand a lot of people don't want people going through their houses, so that's an individual thing. That's a recommendation, but that's on you as a homeowner to feel. All right. So once we're talking afterwards, now that the fire's gone, make sure you're able to go back to your house, do a good survey, check your areas, see if there's any embers or anything. If you can take it out yourself, by all means do it. Walk around your house, and if you can see little things, try to mitigate it. Keep in mind, if this was a true brush fire, then 911 will probably be thin already. But if there is some reason your house is on fire, or you see that you don't have enough water, by all means call 911. All right, the go part. Biggest thing is knowing when to leave, knowing where to go, and how to get there, and knowing what you'll take. Okay, so having that escape route, knowing where to go, knowing where you guys are going to meet up. If you can pre-think these things now, you give your chance a great opportunity for survival. Further information, feel free to check out our website, inspire.lacounty.gov /RSG, which is basically ready, set, go. So I'm going to try to collapse this. Forgive me, I'm not familiar with I want to enter that. I'm going to try this.
Okay.
All right. Okay, cool. I was able to okay, so
we have somebody who has a question for you.
Okay, Mr. Ho?
You're muted. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I do have a question about setbacks. For example, my house, along with a lot of people's houses, Zone A is ours, right? That's our backyard. But Zone B and C are usually somebody else's house, somebody else's own property. And it doesn't matter what the reason is. Maybe it's blocking my view. Maybe it's overgrown. Maybe it's just untaken care of. Do the owners of Zone B need to upkeep their brushes and that property?
Yes, they do need to, because I know exactly where you're talking about, where that property line kind of butts up against each other, because you see this in all brush areas. It's a finger pointing on whose responsibility it is. I guess the best way to say it is both houses are going to burn if the party doesn't fix it. So in these situations, I try to tell people to approach it in a community aspect of what's the best, the reality for both. Because if you have that 100-foot clearance, if the fire is next door, there's a good chance it's going to go to the next person's house, whether it's yours or the next.
I think we lost him.
Yeah,
The
I
other
think,
neighbors. So if you
there we go.
stand a chance to doing this, more often than not, they usually have a tendency to try to find somewhere down the middle versus the whole neighbor, like, this is your property, this is my property. Then they kind of draw their foot in the sand, so to speak, or draw the line in the sand, and they're like, well, I'm not gonna do anything. So I think if you approach it more as a community, like, hey, I think it'd be best if we both come here.
Is there any way for me to ask the local FD to interfere? Like, hey, can I get a notice sent to my neighbor downstairs, or my neighbor that owns this property, for them to take care of the setback? Or
Yeah, so what we do is the fire department, because you guys are in Rolling Heights, so I believe that's Fire Station 145. What they do is they're supposed to come out and they're supposed to do brush inspection. And they'll go out there, keep in mind last year they didn't do it because of COVID, and then they're supposed to do a survey. They'll walk around and then they'll put a little door hanger and they'll tell you either your property is good to go or not good to go. If you guys aren't in compliance, they'll be sent to our forestry division, and then forestry is responsible to go with the local law enforcement, and they're supposed to enforce it.
okay, well, I mean, obviously that creates a conflict, but it's just one of those things that if I can get, I guess, the local FD to enforce the setback, I guess something can be done then.
Yeah, so the fire department, they're gonna go out and they'll write it up and say, okay, hey, you're not in compliant. But like I said, the one who enforces it is our forestry division, and they do it with the local law.
Are there any fines or anything involved?
There is a fine. I don't know off the top of my head, but it would be more of our forestry division.
Okay.
They handle all that side.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
I believe Roy has a question for you.
Yes, sir. Do you have anything you can share with us about the burning of the Martinez house on Colima near Otterbein? I have sources that say that the authorities do know but refuse to intervene as far as getting the culpable individual, and they feel it shouldn't have burned in the first place, given if proper intervention in a timely manner. So anything you can share on that?
Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with that fire. I'm the representative for the department, so I have overall I handle all the communities, so I'm not familiar with that one specific area. I have to do the research, but we're not privy to tell what the cause was anyway, even if it was. If we did know, that's just, we're not privy about that information.
Okay, thank you. But you can go to my YouTube channel. I have some great videos on that property. You'd really enjoy them.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
As a neighborhood community, is it important for us to keep zoned open spaces such as golf courses as a fire break?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Those are all the fire breaks. There's barriers. So there's man-made barriers and then there's natural barriers. So a natural barrier would be basically like a rock creek or something like that was already basically grooved out before the community came into existence. Now, a man-made could be a freeway, a street, so on and so forth. Those are nice because they're thinned out, and then that is usually a golf course is large enough where communities can meet in the middle for whatever reason that they are surrounded by. But as far as what was the second part? The other part of your question?
Yeah, that was basically it. So any zoned open space such as golf courses help you fight fires and help it spread from home to home?
Yeah, any open space is what we're going to try to do. So basically, to give you guys an idea, is we draw a line around the fire. We either draw the line around the fire with either hose, or we draw a line with hand tools or a dozer, so on and so forth. So we'll either use water, the retardant, you'll see them dropping, or we'll try to scratch it with their minimum soil. Whatever it takes, we're going to try to put a ring around that fire. And then after we put the ring around the fire, then we start to go inside and we'll try to mitigate the hotspots. So whatever area that's thinned out, such as a golf course, so to speak, that helps us out because that's going to give that break, and then that fire's not going to continue to keep moving on. So places like golf courses or anything where it's thin, and so that does help our job out. Also, a lot of times golf courses have, sometimes they have lakes or things that, so we can draft water from there as well.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions?
Well, thank you guys for your time. I apologize for talking so much, but definitely the one thing I would advise you guys definitely have a to-go bag. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of these communities that we see that get impacted aren't prepared, and I would just friendly advice, try to have a to-go bag, one in your car and one in your house. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful evening.
Do you have a link to that presentation so we can share it with neighbors?
Yes, I could, it's on the, I'll put it in the chat though.
Yes, if you can put it in the chat for everybody to see it.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem.
We've gone through our agenda. Quick announcement that our next general meeting will be September 13th. And if there's no other questions, then we can adjourn our meeting this evening. No one else has anything? Of course, Roy. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to second the motion.
Oh, thank you, Roy. So we're good to go. Thank you for allowing me to be your moderator this evening, and please go out and have a wonderful day tomorrow and enjoy the rest of the evening tonight. Thank you.